In my younger life, I never needed this pair of eyes. But I guess as we all grow older, it does help. Members of the board of PECO, if you are here, I see my CEO here, Salvan Governor, is here, honored guests, fellow industries, colleagues, and partners. Good morning, and thank you for the privilege of addressing you today at this esteemed PECO 2023 gathering. It's an honor to stand before you as a managing director of Itec Tiyende. I also want to acknowledge my esteemed partner from Sophos, Pieter, who will be sharing the podium with us today. I think Professor mentioned how PECO plays its role in South Africa. We have esteemed procurement specialists here. We have financial managers amongst us. This institution, since its inception, has been at the forefront of assisting higher educational sector in proper procurement. We as business and partners understand both deeply the safety of advancement of the educational sector and are proud to be part of this distinguished gathering. As our MC has stated, our topic today is cybersecurity in a volatile world. And to my learned predecessor here on the stage, I'm not trying to downplay load shedding, but I think cybersecurity, particularly in higher education, has become an area that we are not paying attention to. And today we've been afforded that opportunity to address it. In today's interconnected and rapidly evolving digital age, the security of our educational institutions is more critical than ever. Today, we will delve into top 5 vulnerabilities affecting this sector and explore how, together with our partner Sophos, we have these solutions to mitigate this ever-evolving landscape. And the harsh reality is this: cybersecurity, particularly the hacking of data systems in institutions, in companies, in fact, in some households, is becoming a harsh reality. Hopefully, after this discussion, everybody will be in a much better place to understand it. So very briefly, before we start the discussion, what are these vulnerabilities that we're talking about? As we know, phishing attacks is one of those. My colleague here, Pieter, will address that. There is a phenomenon called unpatched software. Those who are in IT would understand what this is. If you have outdated software, what does it mean to your institution? What does it mean to your organization? More than 50% of institutions, organizations, have weak passwords in their population. It becomes easier for cyber criminals to attack these vulnerabilities because software weak passwords are easily guessable. There are also insider threats that we'll try and tackle. And last but not least, the malware infections. We know that in some institutions within our country, there were those breaches that cybersecurity criminals would infest the networks wanting some sort of a ransom for that. But what does this mean in the context of South African higher education? So hopefully we will address these and other issues. How are we going to do this? I'm sure these guys who know this technology will help me. We will take you through some questions. So Pieter will be on the stand, and I'll be asking some questions as the presentation plays. And we would like participation right at the end, if there are any, 2, 3 questions after that. So I'll be sitting down and then I'll be asking my colleague those questions. Pieter?
Thanks. That's it. Thanks. Good morning, guys. Thanks for the opportunity, as always. I'm a huge believer to collaborate, and I think what Perk has done is definitely voicing what we should do, is to collaborate. So this is a platform for us to share ideas, uniqueness, what's happening in the market. This market, like Simbo stated as well, it's always evolving. And the hackers, so everyone sitting in this room, how I see the market is we get defenders and attackers. Everyone sitting in this room, we try to protect our own businesses, our own communities. That means we're trying to defend. And we see the attackers day to day, they are evolving every single day. There's new malware types coming out. Some facts behind this. So we see more than 400,000 new samples of new viruses being born every single day. Okay, if that sinks in, how do we protect ourselves and equip ourselves to protect ourselves against all these new malwares? It's a big, big task. And currently the question is, who do you think is winning, the attackers or the defenders? That's what this presentation is all about, to give you guys more advice. And hopefully this is also going to give you guys opportunity to come and talk to us. Yes, I've been in this market for 15 years. Some of you guys sitting in this room that I've identified as well as some of my clients. So thanks for being here. Thanks for also supporting us as a vendor. But questions will be key to take us forward.
Okay. Should we begin, Pieter?
Yes, you're welcome. I believe this was your slide for the top vulnerabilities.
Yeah. You can pass this one. Can I start by asking, who is Sophos? And what sort of market share would you say you have in South Africa?
Yeah, great question, actually. So Sophos started in 1985. We were the first encryption company in the world. We started just outside London, a company called Oxford. From there, the first client that we created this product for encryption was the British Army. From there, we just expanded. So from strength to strength, we started with encryption to our endpoint products. That means your antivirus that is now matured to a full-scale firewall UTM on an endpoint layer. And from there, from a market share point of view, we're sitting about on average on UTM space. That means the firewall market network layer. We got about 26% market share, so it's quite a big market share. There's a lot of competitors in that space. So I'll say we're currently second in the firewall space. The endpoint layer, it's a lot more complex because we don't know how many user counts is in the market because of bring your own device. So overall, I'll say it's about 20% market share, to give you an idea. But also to respond who we are. We are a very innovative company. Okay, we try to stay ahead of all the attackers. To give everyone an idea that the attackers today, they're using certain techniques. Those techniques we call exploit techniques to infiltrate businesses. The number one thing to understand is selecting your product is going to be key to make sure you stay safe. It's not just products, it's not just technology. Coming back to a COVID framework that I'm also specialized in as well, it comes down to your people, your processes, and then technology. We're the last layer. But without that last layer and the right partnerships, you are exposed. Okay. So to come back to the question, we are innovative. We protect end-to-end security, not just on the network or the firewall layer. We look at every single entry point in the business that we have a solution for. Okay.
Right, thank you, Pieter. How did the market change over COVID with business evolution for cybersecurity?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. We've got a topic on that. So COVID has changed a lot of things in everyone's lives. After lockdown, we all had to innovate, correct? With innovation came a couple of things. We had to be able to cater for home users. We had to cater for remote workers. And this will not change. Globally, we've seen this trend that not being changing in any way is that remote working is here to stay. But the problem is data is the new gold, and that's what attackers want, is through security of remote workers. And that is becoming a big risk. Also, one thing that we see a lot of motivation. We've seen public cloud. It's becoming much more acceptable, not just in private sector, but public sector and also education as well. Most of us sitting here has adopted to cloud. Yes, cloud is a journey, but not implementing the right policies in cloud, it's great risk. And lastly, we've seen a lot of integrations of automations. Automation is key to take us forward. The more we add to the network, the more complex it becomes ultimately. And I truly believe automation is key to simplify and to make sure that we can function better as a industry as well. But with that, it creates a lot of new vulnerabilities and a lot of new risks ultimately. So yes, it evolved our business, but it also creates a lot of new open attack surfaces for hackers.
Did you see a higher risk over this period, Peter? And if so, in what markets?
Wow, that's a good question actually. So public sector was a big focus for attackers because I know there's a lot of money there. But we'll cover some stats. I'll pull some stats only for the educational market, but education market was under a lot of pressure. Sitting in this room, I'm going to share a lot of content that's related only to education. So that means all of us sitting in this room will have some form of engaged, and also it will definitely impact all of us sitting in this room. So education was under a lot of pressure. It was a focus. It was because they knew all the students had to do remote work. That means a lot of applications they came across that was not needed, and that means it's more risk.
Okay. I think I touched on this earlier on,
Yep.
Ransomware. Can you explain to us what is it and how does it work?
So we get this a lot. A lot of people get confused what ransomware is. Okay, it's a malware type that's designed to infiltrate your environment. You know those mails you normally get on Friday with a cat smiling, say Happy Friday? A lot of the times there's a script in those mail trails from hackers that created that mails. And the more you send it on, the more they get exposed into your environment. So the ransomware's got one purpose, is to find an entry point in your business and to exploit it. When they're talking about exploit, they're talking about encrypting all your data. When they encrypt your data, they keep you ransom, but you have to pay money to get your encryption keys back, that you can function again as a business. That means they lock you down completely in your environment. Scary place to be.
Yeah, it's a very scary place, Peter. I recall a credit company that manages a lot of data in South Africa that was hacked a few years ago. And if you follow the news, people were very worried about their details, whether this company is going to pay the ransom or not. So it is indeed an area that I think we should start taking it seriously. Still on the topic, how safe are we in South Africa in terms of ransomware? Are we safe in Africa? Are we more exposed than global markets in general? What would be your view on that?
So the scary part is, yes, we've got cybercrime legislations in place. The problem is it can't be enforced. When I'm talking about legislations, think about you get hacked today, you'll be able to trace the IP to the attacker, to the hacker itself. You go to the police station and you say, listen, you got hacked, here's the IP, you want to take this forward as a criminal charge. We're not equipped for that yet. We as Africans, we're not equipped. So we are very much exposed, and the hackers is using that against us. I was reading an article, this was done in July. There was 520 attacks of ransomware in that specific month in July. This was globally, but in a global statement, more than, I think it was 322 of those attacks was from SA. From global attacks to having such a big scale and volume in essays because we're not equipped. So we are not safe at all. And also just a comment on that as well. Think about the following. A lot of times the attacker don't know who you are. They will send you a mail, they will go to the dark web, they will buy a database. On the database, they will go and create a ransomware technique to attack that database. They don't know who you are at that point. When someone clicks on the wrong mail, that means you can have the best technology in the world in place, but your users that's sitting in your environment, they're not trained properly, and they click on the wrong mail. We spoke about the risk of a phishing attack. That's an entry point for them to get into your environment. So the number one step for me always to stipulate is we have to improve our back-end systems. We have to improve our user accounts. It's not just about technology. It's about equipping ourselves and training our people. Okay. I see we've got a slide on board that comes to quite a big topic. So I just want to go back to one slide. Where is that clicker now?
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, apologies.
I took it for you.
That's what I'm saying, it's missing. So one thing, if you look at, this is your industry, by the way. Everyone sitting in this room, we've got, let's say, 400 people in this room, currently sitting here. 66% of you guys were hacked in the last year. That's a big number, okay? You might not own up to it, but you have some form of an attack that you guys had to go and fix. This survey we do every single year, by the way. This is an independent survey, not from our clients. This is just general clients that we do. So normally, 2020, we started this journey. 2020, we did the first survey to 3,000 clients. We asked the clients, please fill in of what was relative ransomware. This was the outcome from it. They stipulated in 2020, 35% of all businesses got compromised in 2020. 2021, it went up to about 46%. Last year, it was sitting at 56%. And this year, 66% of businesses. Coming back to the question that I posed in the beginning is, who's winning, attackers or defenders? It's very clear the attackers are winning today, okay? One thing that we have to highlight, 76% of all those clients that got compromised, they got encrypted. That means they were successful in encrypting your data. Okay, that is a massive part. And the sad thing is, the last thing that I want anyone to do, please do not pay the ransom. The more we pay the ransom, the more money we're feeding back into the dark web. And the more we feed the dark web, the more we're giving the attackers more tools, more equipment. They got more budget to go and spend. And that is a high risk for all of us. So one of the biggest payments we've seen for ransomware was from this market. We've seen, for example, some departments of government that paid more than 50 million rand. I'm not allowed to mention who it was, but they paid 50 million rand in ransom just to get the money back. And this happened quite recently. And sadly, we get this panic phone calls from a lot of clients on a weekly basis. I'm getting at least about 20 calls a month from clients saying, listen, Pieter, please help us. But the problem is when you're re-encrypted, then it's too late because they're in your environment, they re-encrypted your machines. So you have to do proactive planning ultimately to make sure that they can't get in. So that means your budget, please look at it and make sure you spend in the right areas of the business. So the average ransomware recovery cost, this recovery excluding the ransom payments. The average was $1.82 million just to rebuild your network and get back up and running on average of about 3,000 people that responded to this. That's a massive amount of money if you have to convert this into dollars.
Yep. Yeah, those figures are quite staggering indeed. What options do you have, Pieter, when you have been breached with ransom attack?
Yeah, so the first thing everyone goes to is backup, isn't it? So don't worry, I've got backup. The problem is that we've seen with a lot of entities is that attackers will give you some form of malware sample that you click on it. It will live in your environment, by the way. It's not just going to sit there and I'm going to execute now in the environment, I'm going to execute an attack. They might sit there for 18 months. We've seen this with City Power of Joburg. Okay, great example. They were sitting there for 18 months in the environment without doing anything. They just sit there and idling, waiting for the right time. So the more you back up, when you back up, they backed up also this encrypted files sitting there. So every time when they do a restore, the attackers is back again, they encrypt them again. So it's a very ugly cycle, but 73% of businesses went back to backup and say, listen, let's just do a restore and continue. But the problem with that is, if you look at the ratios, we spoke about 4 or 6% of payments. This is segment related, this is your market we're talking about. So 46% of the individuals actually paid a ransom, but also they talk about other means and then they talk about multiple different methods. So normally when they start doing a backup, and then they actually got to know, listen, the backup's also corrupted, stay back again. Then they will try to use different services. Then this might be your partner, this might be the vendors. And just to bring us back to a story that I spoke to a client quite recently. A client phoned me in a panic. Listen, he's spoken to the partner doesn't have the skill to help them. They're not taking any accountability. That is their ICT reseller. They actually spoke to the vendors. The vendors stipulated, listen, this is not my problem. This is your data. You guys potentially have a misconfig or a user problem. So no one wanted to take ownership. And he told me openly, this is the most, he never felt this alone in his life because no one wanted to help him. And he had to give feedback back to the board. So listen, this is what happened. This is what we're going to do. This is the action plan. And most people don't have like an incident response plan in place. So highly recommend you guys to have one. If you don't, please come and talk to us. We can give you one. We can help you guys to build it. I think that's really important. But you'll see that they tried multiple different methods. It's because they tried backup, they tried something else, they tried paying also the ransom, and there's not really a guarantee you're going to get your encryption key back after making payment. We've seen a lot of clients making massive payments, and they get some form of data back. They will get about 60% an average back of data. That means they still sit with 40% of the data. Why would they do that? It's a business. They know you paid once. They know you will pay again for the remaining 40. We must understand ransomware today is a billion-dollar business. To give you guys an idea, our market spend for vendors like ourselves for cybersecurity is currently $66 billion market. Okay. The attackers is 5 times fold our market size for vendors. It's because the people keep paying the ransom. So currently, I'm part of the good guys, but for me to be part of the bad guys is much more profitable. Okay, that's why the youngsters today is leaning towards the dark web. They're leaning towards different resources. And we, sitting as a community, will have a much bigger task and risk as this grows. The next year, I can imagine that stat will definitely increase.
You know, I'm so happy, Peter, you partnered with us over the last 3 years, because we're not one of those partners who will pass the problem to yourselves. Are there any mitigating factors that you can present here today to safeguard us and these higher institutions of learning in combating this before we proceed?
Yes, definitely.
To the next.
So I just want to make one comment as well before we get to it.
Okay.
The one comment is, in the 15 years that I've been with Sophos, okay, we had one attack, one breach of all my clients. I've got thousands of local clients. I can tell you that our product works. And I'm always confident. That's why everyone still asks me after, 15 years being the same vendor. It's because it's a passion, it's not work. And I hope that comes across as well. For me, this is not work. For me, this is passion to educate and to help clients like yourselves to rebuild your network to make sure it's secure. But coming back to the question, there's a couple of challenges in the cybersecurity market. So the one thing is definitely going to be the volume of attacks that's taking place. It's no longer in the past they just do a brute force attacks on the network layer. They look at different entry points. So you have to see your network as a layer. From everyone sitting in this room, we all got cell phones, smart devices, bring your own device, we're all connected to the Wi-Fi. How secure is it? We all got access to our work tools, mails, systems, but we all communicate and connect without having any cybersecurity policy on our cell phones. That means it's a high risk. It means the entry point has changed. We have to take that as also a community, we have to change that. Also from a cybersecurity tool, it's overwhelming. There's now states about 46 different cybersecurity tools being used in average in any environment. That means to go and track from a skill level, to go to every single device, every single vendor, to go and look at their reports, it's a massive task. And the average spend is about $7,500 per individual in the business to make sure they are secure. That's way too much, to be honest with you. We can definitely bring it down to simplify that. But the last thing is skill. We see in this market we don't have sufficient skill. No offense to any engineer or anyone that's properly trained in cybersecurity, we are in desperate need for more skill in this country. So we have to educate so much more. And if you have kids, whatever it might be, please push them into cybersecurity. There's a lot of open roles. So only in the states alone, so this part of the survey, we actually looked at the states' data. They got more than 3,500 jobs open at any point for cybersecurity as it is. That means there's a growing demand. And how the market's developed, if you think about robotics, it's coming next. If you look at VR, it's coming next. I did an article 3 weeks back about a F-35 fighter jet that got hacked mid-air. Imagine you sitting as a pilot, you're flying a fighter jet in America. In mid-air, he got compromised and he had to obviously get out of the plane. By doing that, the plane was only found 18 miles away. That means someone still controlled it for 18 miles and he still was fully equipped with rifles, missiles, you name it. So you can imagine this happens to domestic flights. So our jobs are getting more and more complex and more of a need than any time before. So definitely it's to retain staff, it's a huge problem. So that because it's a lot of openings that's taking place globally. Okay, globally we see a lot of youngsters moving abroad, and that means for us we are less skilled and we have to educate as much as possible.
I always thought using Apple devices, you are always protected to this kind of attacks, Peter, but that was, I was delusional. No one is safe until you've got right systems in place. So what is the best practice according to Sophos that you can give us and a word?
Sure. I could talk on this topic for days, okay? So I love talking, so apologies for that. But the one thing that I always recommend is this graph. So if there's any takeaway of this whole day from my side, this is definitely how we build a proper strategy with clients. You'll see it's got a middle path that's going to see as your assets. What is your critical assets? The critical assets today is all your data. On top of that, you have to build layers, because as what we know from attackers, they're breaking down layers, and we have to build layers so that they can break down, that we can make sure they can't get to our assets. So it's going to be from a DLP layer. DLP is very difficult to go and implement, but yes, it's critical that you have to do that. We also have seen from application layer, application security. This is where any application used in the business, please do not use Skype in any ways. There's normal Skype. Skype uses every single port in your environment. Attackers is definitely sniffing that out quite quick. And also any file that you do a drop into Skype, you can't track and trace it as a business. That means it's a high risk for data loss. Okay. Yes, from an endpoint security layer, highly critical to have the right products. There's 35 techniques known today about how to go and build a ransomware attack. There's 35 techniques known to man today. And most vendors don't cover all 35. So I can definitely proudly say we've been protecting all our clients for so many years because we specialize in ransomware. That's definitely our specialty. So from a 35 techniques, we cover all 35. But also on top of that, we've got the network layer. Yes, we do have firewalls. Yes, we do have our switches. We have our access points. All that complements building that channel and a funnel. And identity layer. Have a multi-factor authentication. You have to have one. It can be Okta. It can be obviously from a Duo app, Microsoft Authenticator. There must be something in place to make sure you enforce authentication into the business. But in the left column, you'll see that's about identity and prevent. This is, what is your risk? What is your compliance? For risk and compliance, I always ask the question, if you get impacted today with a ransomware, can you afford it? Can you afford being down? Because the average time it takes between a month to 6 months to rebuild your network if you don't pay ransom. If you pay ransom, in a week you're up and running. Okay. I'm not here to promote paying ransom, please don't get me wrong. Okay. I want to make sure that you guys understand the big need. You have to have a planning. You must have a strategy with cybersecurity. Everyone always says cloud is a journey. I believe cybersecurity is a journey as well, going from where you are today and where you want to be and where we need to be. And the right-hand side you'll see as well is something that we specialize in is definitely from a operational side, being proactive, having artificial intelligence, having a full-on detection and response method. That means we actually have our own SOC. Our SOC, if you look at our SOC itself, our SOC is currently to give you guys an idea, currently got 35 billion alerts every single day. So that means from a data lake, every single client we have in the world communicate to one single place. So we've got 150 million clients globally. Out of 150 million clients come to one single place. We understand globally when's the new risk being born. How do you protect against the unknown tomorrow? It's always a very difficult question to answer, but we can do that with confidence. It's because of our footprint in our data lake, we can protect our clients. Out of that 31 billion alerts every single day, we have a lot of artificial intelligence built into that to minimize, to understand what is not just noise coming in, what is it? What is the truth behind those attacks to identify it much quicker?
All right, Pieter, I see the time is almost up. Just in closing, will you just wrap it up for us?
Sure.
Why Sophos? I think I asked you that again. Just in wrapping up, why Sophos and why partner with us? And what sort of what ownership can vendors take if all of this fails?
Very important question. What is the ownership? I like that. So the one thing that we do a lot, okay, is take ownership as a vendor. That's something that we pride ourselves on. We're trying to help our clients. We've got a partnership. I truly believe in partnerships. So if something goes wrong in your business, you need to know who you can phone, isn't it? So this is a stat from Gartner, stipulating the ratings of the SOC and response times. How long does it take an average, let's say, SOC team to go and identify a risk? So if you look at Sophos, anything under 56 seconds as the actual result is an average that we take to go and identify an attack and a risk in your environment. But with that, if you look at the average versus all the rest of the guys, the average is 16 hours. For an attacker to be in your environment before you can identify for 16 hours, it's a huge risk. Because they stipulate between 10 to 15 hours they can get into your AD. If they get to your AD, they encrypt. That's the challenge. But on the ownership, we actually give full ownership. We've got $1 million cover for our clients. Okay. If you use our product stacks from our MDR SOC teams, we give you $1 million cover, and that includes loss of operations, loss of PR, because for part of POPIA, you have to do announcements for PR. That's no longer your risk, it's our risk. So what are we giving to our clients? And we've partnered with Tiyende is very simple. We take all your headaches away from risk. Cyber risk day to day is no longer your risk, it becomes mine. Okay. That means this is not unwritten from anyone else. This is unwritten from Sophos Direct. That means we are believing so much in our products that we're telling you openly, it's no longer your problem, it's now becoming our problem. That includes if there's a ransomware bill, we have to pay it, not you. That means it saves you a lot of money, a lot of time.
Good. Thank you, Pieter. Thank you very much. I think my colleague did mention one pertinent thing I'd like to take out of this. As universities and TVET colleges gathered here, I think it becomes very clear what sort of skill set industry requires. We need securities experts to be trained to fill those positions within our businesses. We need data scientists to safeguard that. Most importantly, I think AI developers and programmers are going to become very pertinent as we channel through this journey of cybersecurity. Certainly, in our business today, we need those youngsters that are qualified in these disciplines. I want to thank you for spending time and listening to us, and hopefully the message resonated very well with us. And when you do find time, please join us at our stand. You won't miss it. The logo is there. We are here at PECO, and it is our second time, and we are really pleased to be part of this organization. Thank you very much.